Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Command Modern Operations. I'm your host, Kushan. Today, I'm going to be continuing my Kushan teaching streams. I'm going to be picking up the Air Warfare Strike tutorials, where I left off a couple weeks ago. So in the first one that I did, I finished the Strike tutorial number 1, which was the bombing range. So today, I'm going to do Strike tutorial number 2, driving in the daisies. The object of Strike tutorial number 2 is to familiarize new players with the mission planner and some basic concepts of attack. You'll have a half squadron of German Tornado strike aircraft and 2 missions to complete. There is enemy element present, but is easily avoided. Enjoy and learn. This is by Gunner 98. Should take about 20 minutes to complete. Today you have a half squadron of German Tornado IDS, Interdictor Strike. The Tornado is different than the F-16 multi-role, which we used in the Strike tutorial number 1, as it is a member of a family of aircraft, others being ADV, Air Defense Variant, and the other ECR, Electronic Combat Reconnaissance. The Tornado IDS is specialized low-level strike into a heavily defended area, so much more capable in that specific role than a dedicated ground attack, such as the A-10 or Su-25. In this tutorial, we'll set up 2 missions, 3 actually. Find ground targets and then strike them. Please enter the scenario, look around. Instructions will pop up in a few seconds. So let's take a look at our airbase. So as expected, we have 6 Tornadoes, and that's it. 4 are currently ready to go and armed, each armed with 2 AIM 2000 Iris Ts, 4 BL 755 cluster munitions with 147 general purpose anti-armor bomblets, and chaff flare pod, defensive ECM pod. I just can't talk today. And 2 1,500 liter drop tanks. So let's go ahead and turn on all the reference points. So we can see we do have one threat that we know about, and that is the SA-5 battery over here. Let's go take a look at the SA-5 missile itself. So we have 18 single rail SA-5 launchers, plus a tall king radar, plus a square pair radar, and an odd pair high frequency radar. I want to look at the actual missile itself though. So the missile itself can target 650 feet up to 130,000 feet. So as long as we stay below 650 feet, we should be fine. Oh, and our other 2 Tornadoes are going to be ready in about an hour. We have one with a GAF recce pod. And another one with 5 Mark 82 500 airs. Mission number 1, to set up the standard anti-surface warfare mission, following steps. So we're going to select the RPs labeled for mission 1. We're going to hit Control F11. We're going to select a patrol mission. We're going to set up anti-surface ground. One second. Sorry about that. Dad was sending me pictures of the fish he caught. Okay, so mission. Let's just go ahead and give this ground patrol. We're going to click OK. We're going to uncheck the 1/3 rule. Okay, Gunner says to keep it checked. I'm going to keep it unchecked. Uncheck the investigate outside patrol area. Uncheck the investigate contacts within weapons range. Leave active emissions unchecked. We have 4 RPs as expected. Let's just validate the area and make sure it's okay. It is. So we're going to move all 4 of our aircraft to the mission now. And actually, let's go ahead and leave 1/3 rule checked. Actually, it doesn't matter because we only have 2 aircraft per... Well, let's just go ahead and leave 1/3 rule checked. That's fine. Those 2 aren't ready. We'll assign them anyway. Oh, we actually can't use those 2. All right, we can close that, and we can go ahead and resume now. So shortly, we click on our airbase. We should see that 2 of these are going to begin launching here shortly. There we go. So what they're going to do is they're going to take off, they're going to fly out, and they're going to begin patrolling this area looking for ground targets. Good morning, Jaculus. Sorry I missed your thing in chat. Now we're going to be outside the SA-5 battery's range for this mission, so I'm not too worried about them being too high. When I set up mission number 2, we're going to have to come in low. I'm going to set my station throttle low. Let's look at our bomb loads. They can be dropped up to... Okay, so they can only be dropped up to 3,000 feet, so our aircraft are going to descend for the attack. Good morning, Joe. How are you? We can go ahead and speed this up a little. Now, what should have happened is that the two tornadoes should have taken off with radars on. They will proceed to the mission area at high altitude and search for targets. If they find them, they will automatically strike them within the definition of their WRA, Weapon Release Authority. Once in the patrol area, they will drop to low altitude in accordance with their loadout profile, high, low, high, and look for targets. You will note that their altitude and their search is around 1980 feet. If you mouse over the area and check the data block on the ground, altitude is 1780. Checking the group status block, you see the altitude is around 1980, so they're about 200 feet above ground level. It's important to remember these two reference altitudes when planning missions. Message probably fired a little early, but that's fine. Now that we're coming to our patrol area, I'm going to slow it down. And you can see we're dropping down to our patrol altitude now, with the expected hit to our fuel consumption. So we're at about 2,000 feet. The ground is about 1,800. So we're about that 200 feet above ground level that I expected. There we go. There's a target. Take that back. There was a target. And now that it's destroyed, we're going to go ahead and continue on the patrol. So we just took out a Scorpion light tank platoon. You might find your target, or you might not. Ground targets are very hard to find. Thankfully, these ones are moving, which makes them much easier. Picture yourself in the cockpit of an aircraft at 200 feet AGL. That's the height of a church steeple, radium mast, or tall tree. Flying at lighter speed of 350 knots, 400 mile per hour, or 650 kph. Looking for guys who don't want to be found. If they are not moving, they have camouflage up and will be very stealthy. Moving, at least you might have a chance. If you did find someone, your units automatically attacked them, and the second barrier has taken over the job. That's not happened because we didn't waste all of our bomblets. You will note that this might not be the most efficient way of looking for ground targets, as that 6-hour ready time is a heck of a wait. To do this task properly, you would need to do an entire squadron of 12 aircraft with 3 or 4 on maintenance and 8 or 9 constantly running this patrol 24/7. And even with 12 aircraft, that's kind of pushing it to maintain complete coverage all the time. Your eyes on the battlefield. Strike aircraft are valuable, you never have enough of them, and you don't want to lose them. They take a long time to prepare, and munitions are such that you may want to plan as opposed to leave it to your fighter jockeys to drop them. Drop the world on whatever they see. So that is why commanders take some valuable and scarce strike assets and use them for reconnaissance. There are several reasons you might use a reconnaissance aircraft instead of hunting with your strikers. The reconnaissance pods give them an advantage. They are usually quicker to ready, in this case 3 hours versus 6 hours for the strike aircraft. They don't expend the reconnaissance pods, which can be reused. Since there is no droppable ordnance, many recon loadouts have a quick turnaround setting. Your strikers can wait on the ground, ready to roll on any target, and you can then launch and strike with munitions at your discretion. Or what you can do is leave some strikers kind of on a support mission nearby, let your recon go in, and then it immediately reduces the time between the strike or detection and strike. Which for a high value target, you don't necessarily have the time to wait for your aircraft to launch, fly to wherever the bad guys are, drop the bombs, then turn around and fly back. Quick turnaround is a setting that certain aircraft have with certain loadouts based on proven capability and doctrine. In this case, Bomber number 5 with the GAF Recce Pod has quick turnaround on. Each aircraft is specific, but in this case, if the predicted sortie time is less than 8 hours, first sortie is under 4 hours, the aircraft will land, refuel, probably change pilots, do quick repairs, and take off again in 30 minutes. If the parameters for quick turnaround are not met, the aircraft will take a 3-hour stand-down time, which is same as its loadout ready time. Very handy, and Bomber number 5 is becoming ready in a minute or two. A nice surprise. So let's go take a look at our air base. And what do you know, we actually have a minute until it's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead for now. I'm just going to unassign these other 2 bombers from the first strike mission. In addition to Bomber number 5 with the GAF Recce Pod, you have a second aircraft, Bomber number 6, with the Mark 82 Air low. The low is the profile, so it's going to fly low for the egress, fly low for the strike, and then low for the egress. We're going to set up a couple of missions that will work together, a recon mission and a strike mission. So let's start. First, note the nasty looking red unit with the number 29 next to it. That's a SA-5, a fairly common Cold War era SAM surface-to-air missile. It's been around since the 50s, but has been updated. But this is an updated C version, and the missile is the size of a telephone pole, so it will hurt you if it hits you. It has 18 missile launchers, 5 radars, 6 close-in AAA guns, too big for us to handle, and the AAA makes it tricky to get close to anyway. You also note that the red ring around the SAM completely encompasses the Mission 2 RPs, what to do. In most military situations, you need to pit your strengths against your enemy's weaknesses. This is a classic case of the right tool for the right job. What is a key strength of the Tornado IDV? Low-level flying. What is a key weakness of the SA-5? That leads to the military principle of know your enemy. Let's check the DB. Well, we've already checked this, and we know that the SA-5 has a minimum firing altitude of 650 feet. It cannot fire at targets below that, which is what this paragraph right here just says. So to set up the recon mission, select the RPs for mission number 2, hit Control F11, and again, we will set up a ground patrol mission. In my case, I'm just going to hit the new mission icon I have on my Stream Deck. Good morning, Pixel. Today on Who Will Kushan Bomb Next? Kushan Senpai drops lots of command knowledge. I try, Pixel. I try. I'm just going to call this Recon. I'm going to uncheck all the standard stuff here. We need to change our flight size to single aircraft. Uncheck all the boxes in the center column. Very important, on the very right side, set the transit altitude to 600 feet. That'll keep us below the 650 feet minimum altitude the SA-5 can fire at. And station altitude set to 200 feet. Let's check all three terrain boxes. Let's go and set the attack altitude to 200 feet as well. Now, if you find a target, there is no point allowing it to live, so you need to set a strike mission. Remember back in tutorial 1, I mentioned that NATO bombs have some attachments you can add. This is an example. The Mark 82 is a standard 500-pound dumb bomb, but can you imagine what might happen if you drop a low drag bomb at very low altitude? All that shrapnel could be very bad for your aircraft's complexion, to say the least. Also, a good rule of thumb for dumb bombs is to drop them low to improve accuracy. Stabilizing them helps accuracy even more. So the air inflatable retarder slows down the bomb to allow your aircraft to egress a little further before it explodes, and it helps stabilize the bomb in flight. Both are good things in this situation. So when your recon flight finds a target, you want to launch your aircraft loaded with the Mark 82 air bombs. Fly them low and fast, drop your bombs, stay well away from the stay well under the SA-5 engagement envelope. Good morning, Gunner. So we'll set up the second ground attack mission here. Actually, we're going to set up the second mission as a ground strike mission. Flight size is going to be single aircraft, allow off-axis attack. And right now I'm going to leave the mission as inactive, just in case my patrol number 1 aircraft find another target. Oh, so we do want to set up a minimum distance to our target, so let's go about 300 nautical miles. Oh, so Gunner recommends 320, so we'll do what he says. I'm getting well ahead of what the mission box actually says. So go back to our aircraft, assign our recon aircraft to its mission, and then assign our bomber to its mission. So you can see our aircraft is staying at the 600 feet above ground level that we specified in the mission settings. No offense, Gunner, but I don't think I've ever looked at the strike tutorials. Other than some cursory glances here or there. I mean, that's what a tutorial's supposed to do, right? The tutorial's not supposed to just shove you straight into the frying pan. So I'm going to set my station altitude to 600 feet AGL. That should still keep us below the sand battery, but may help our radar detection a little bit. Alright, you can see our first two strike aircraft are now RTB. Our recon bird here is going to be bingo in about 30 minutes too, but still hasn't found anything. How's it been going, Gunner? I haven't seen you around in a while. Work finally slow down to something manageable? Alright, about 3 minutes, and then our bomber here is going to be bingo. There we go. We have a communications hub. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to activate that strike mission. And you can see he's taxiing for takeoff now. So if we click on him, you can see he's going to fly out to waypoint 4 here. He's going to turn right. He's going to hit his initial point. He's going to bomb the target at point 6, and then he's going to egress to point 7, fly to point 8, and then re-enter the landing pattern and land back at base. Again, you can see that per his mission profile, he's coming in at 200 feet. Some of the triggers could use some adjustment there, Gunner. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Crap. No. All right. Load save game. Gonna reload the last autosave here. So if all goes well, you found the building and destroyed it. So in this tutorial, you have set up an ASUW mission, a reconnaissance version of the same mission, and a strike mission. You are well on your way to getting a grip on using your air assets to destroy your enemies. See in tutorial number 3, where we attack a more complex target. Well, we're going to finish this scenario first. I noticed a couple of other messages earlier in the scenario were a little quick, probably, but they weren't too bad. But that's the one that feels totally like out of place. Probably didn't help that it took my recon aircraft a little bit to find the building. Alright, let's slow it down. Alright, so we have 20 minutes until we are bingo fuel. But we're only about 40 nautical miles away from our target. Alright, we're going to hit the IP. There goes our bombs. And the communication building has been destroyed. Now our bomber is going to egress via waypoint 7. So I'm going to manually tell him to come up to altitude of, say, 12,000 feet. Should give him a little bit more time on his engines there. Morning, Doug. Oh, and per our quick turnaround on the mission settings for our recon aircraft, you can see he is landed, refueled, changed out pilots, made some minor repairs, and taken off again. But that's going to conclude strike tutorial number 2. Let's move on to strike tutorial number 3. In this tutorial, you will use the skills gained in the earlier 2 scenarios to neutralize Zinder Airport. You have a squadron of the latest Russian MiG-23s and a section of Su-24 bombers. The MiG-23 is a very prolific Cold War-era Warsaw Pact aircraft that was once used by over a dozen countries and is still found in almost a dozen. Or almost once used by 24 countries and is still in use by about a dozen. The MiG-23 MLD Flogger K is the ultimate evolution of this durable fighter, over 500 of which are in reserve status of the Russian Air Force today. The Su-24 is the best medium bomber to come from out of the Soviet era, a direct match to the American F-111. Unlike its American opponent, it is relatively easy to maintain, rugged, and reliable. It remains a very capable strike platform. Over 400 of these aircraft of several variants remain in service today. Yeah, the F-111 was a hangar queen. A complex strike is not necessarily difficult. It is complex due to the mixing of strike platforms, aircraft types, munitions, and targets. To be effective, you must analyze the targets, identify the best munitions and platforms to strike them with, choose a sequence, plan it all out, and execute. You won't have the instructions popping up in messages during this tutorial. A few comments because I can't resist, but all the planning work is at the start and the instructions will be in the briefing. You should feel free to rerun this scenario several times to understand the concepts better. This will take about an hour. Your task today is to neutralize Zinder Airport. The word neutralize is important. Airports are almost impossible to destroy from the air. To probably destroy an airport would likely involve heavy machinery ripping up the airstrips and taxiways, or nuclear weapons. Bombs will put holes and craters in tarmacs and cement. Those can be filled in easily. Buildings can be blown up, but tents and weather shelters can replace them in hours. Fuel and munitions will be destroyed, but can quickly be replaced. So your job is to close the airport for as long as possible, thereby preventing the enemy aircraft from using it. So what makes it up an airport? Click on Zinder Airport, hit 9 on your number pad, or V in case you don't have a number pad, or page up on your number pad to change unit view, and zoom in so your scale is in meters and not miles. This is what this very small airport has one runway access point, one aircraft hangar, 3 tarmac space, 1 aviation gas, 1 ammo pad, 1 ammo bunker, 1 ATC radar, 1 control tower, 1 terminal, and 1 open parking spot. So it's a really small airport. Now let's look at your assets. 1 Su-24 MR, great for finding out which of the parking spots are occupied by aircraft, but remember you cannot see into the hangars or hardened aircraft shelters. 4 Su-24 M2 Fencer Ds. These are your heavy strike platforms. They are your only penetrators, a key weakness in Soviet-era munitions. They also have some decent 500-pound laser or guided bombs. Small like Atlanta. We have 12 MiG-23 MLD Flogger Ks. These have a mix of anti-runway, cluster munitions, incendiary bombs, general-purpose bombs, and rockets. Key thing to note is that none of these munitions are guided and have a low profile. It's a good thing your target is only about 100 nautical miles away. You may note that the range in this profile for these aircraft is quite short. Your next step is to figure out your plan, what do you want to destroy, why, and when. Timing is important. There are ways of making everything arrive at the target at once, but this would be complex and quite unrealistic. The commander of the attack would only want a maximum of 2 or 4 aircraft directly over the target at any one time. Otherwise, the risk of collision is way too high. Commando does not model mid-air collisions, nor does it model shrapnel from one strike hitting aircraft from another, but it does model the time it takes for aircraft to do things like take off, assemble, etc. The subject of time on target is quite an active discussion on the forums. Coordinating complex strikes is one of the most fun and satisfying aspects of the game. In this scenario, you will have a few aircraft to coordinate. Imagine what it would be if you have aircraft from several different bases, some needing refueling to reach the target. Now add surface and air-launched cruise missiles, flying programmed routes, layer in some helicopters, artillery, surface-to-surface missiles, and you have an interesting problem to handle. You can worry about that later. Right now you need to think about timing your reconnaissance and strike assets. So do you want to close the runway first, kill the radar first, destroy the ammo and fuel first, kill the parked aircraft? These are all good answers. Your job is Your job is to choose one. First, let's take a better look at your reconnaissance aircraft. Knowledge is an important tool. I'm going to enter the scenario and I'm going to bring this up. We're going to just take a look at this. So, bring up the briefing. Let's take a look at your reconnaissance aircraft. Knowledge is important tool. This is the weapon that will inform your plans, and even though it is virtually unarmed, this one has some defensive air-to-air missiles. It is still a useful weapon. The Su-24 MR Fencer E is equipped with multiple sensors. Pop open and take a look. So we are going to do just that. So if we look at the sensors, we can see it has a side-looking airborne radar. We can see it has a terrain following radar. It has a number of different cameras. It has a non-imaging infrared line scanner, a missile approach warning system, radar warning receiver, defensive ECM, and of course the Mark I eyeball. Our particular loadout for this is also carrying a ELINT pod. And we're still not done yet, Gunner. We're about halfway through your briefing. So what to do with this aircraft? Well, that depends on what you wish to achieve. You could put it on a area surveillance task, though it up to 40,000 feet. Pretty sure that should say throw. THROW. Throw it up to 40,000 feet and let the ELINT pod do the work, but that won't find the enemy aircraft located at your target airbase. Note, for this mission, you need to get down and dirty. The task here is to locate where the bad guys' planes are, so you can better direct your bombers. This means you'll be looking for them in the visual spectrum, not the electronic. Because the planes won't be emitting anything, because they're obviously on the ground, you'll need to see the target with your eyeball, cameras, and IR. It's unlikely that your radar is good enough to pick them up, but many modern radars will be useful in this role. To do this, you need to be low and survive, so we're going to set up a couple of low-level missions. And we'll get to, let's just go over the strike stuff. We won't go over how to set up a strike mission. You could handle this attack manually. It's really not that big, but I would advise employing missions. The process I use is standard way for setting up missions. I would launch my recon fencer first, have the following missions, but you should experiment. And then Gunner breaks down his target for the strike aircraft. I'm going to go ahead and follow his recommendation here. We're going to have to set up a number of different strike missions. And for this, I am actually going to turn on the Sentinel-2, assuming it's not blindingly bright. Alright, there's our recon mission. And then we're going to set up a number of different create new strike, land strike, call this parking. I'm going to change the flight to be a single section of 2 aircraft each. Create new mission. So the reason I'm setting up a different mission for every one of the targets is because by default, the target list, your aircraft will go after the top target until it's destroyed and then slowly work through this as if it's like a hierarchy. And so if you set up a different mission, your aircraft will actually split up and go after different targets. There's probably a way to do this with WRA, but I find it's just easier to set up a separate mission. And I'll go through and actually set up the flight sizes when I'm done with this. So, strike, land strike. Land strike. Have gas. So 2 more left. So strike the terminal. And the last one is the strike against the Alright, so the last one's a general strike. We're not going to assign anything to this one right now. We'll see what survives. So now what it's time to do is to go through all the missions. So ammo bunker. Yeah, I don't think the Sentinel-2 is actually providing anything right here, so we'll turn that off. Ammo bunker gets added to that mission. Ammo pad. So what I'm doing, guys, is I have the mission menu or editor open on my other monitor. So what I do is I select the target. So in this case, the control tower. I find the control tower mission. I remove, in this case, the runway, so I don't target the runway, and I just select add currently selected on map. Terminal. I mean, the other is to do exactly what Gunnar said, which is to select everything and then remove what you don't want. Okay, so then the next portion of this is to go down and make sure our flight sizes are correct. So we have our runway strike. We're going to have a strike of 2 aircraft. We're going to go after our parking. This is going to be 4 aircraft, so 2 is fine. The radar, we're going to have a single aircraft. The hangar, which I didn't get. Need to make sure that's properly on the list. There's the hangar. So hangar is going to have 1 aircraft. Then we have the control tower. That has a single aircraft. We have the ammo pad. Has 2 aircraft. The ammo bunker will have a single aircraft. The avgas has a single aircraft. The runway access point is going to have 1. The terminal is going to have 2. And then I'm going to set up a general. My recon is going to determine which one I assign to the general. That's going to be the one that I'm hoping to hit the tarmac space where the enemy aircraft currently are. So for that, I'm just going to assign it to 2, and we'll see what happens here. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to inactivate all my missions. I'm going to wait for the recon to go up first. And then I'll go ahead and reactivate all the missions after that. I could have used the activation timer. I'm just going to do it manually for right now, though. Because if I do it right now, what's going to happen is that they're going to take off at the same time as my recon aircraft, and the recon aircraft is basically not going to do anything useful. The strike will be over by the time the recon is done. So let's go back to my airbase. Select my fencer, assign to the recon mission, and go. Yeah, Gunner, if I would have thought about it, I should have done overlays for this. So I'm going to go and bring up the side briefing again. And let's go ahead and assign aircraft where they need to be. So MiG-23 with BET 500 anti-runways. These are going to go to the runway mission, obviously. So we have the parking mission is next. These are going to be RBK 250s. We'll assign all of those to that mission. ZAV 500s. These are going to go to the ammo bunker mission. Fab 500s. These are going to go for the terminal. The rockets are going to go for the avgas. And the radar. And then our fencers, we're going to have 1 go after the hangar. Oh, no. I didn't select the other one. That one was going to go after the radar. We're going to have 1 that's going to go after the hangar. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I selected the wrong one. This one, the 1500, should be going after the ammo bunker. The other one should be going after the access point. The 500s can go after the hangar and the control tower. And I think that's everything. So they're all assigned to the mission, but because the mission's inactive, they won't do anything right now. So I'm going to leave the transit altitude as it is. The station altitude, I'm going to make 500 feet. And make it terrain following. Would not surprise me if a gunner hid a SAM battery or two over here. Of course you wouldn't, gunner. You would never hide a SAM battery and not turn on its radar, right? So, Joe, you should be able to continue playing after a scenario ends. You don't have to end it when it ends. Instead of clicking end scenario or restart scenario or close, you can just hit the X on the top corner of the end menu, and it'll continue letting you play as normal. As Gunnar said a couple minutes ago, the strike tutorials are still good. They're definitely worth playing, but there is just some minor little things here and there for some of the timing. I just had strike tutorial number 2 end before my aircraft ever destroyed the final target. But Gunnar, it's better to teach people to get in the habit of expecting the unexpected than to get in the habit of you're just going to get a free ride every time. Tutorials or no, you should build good habits early. So we are going to be entering their radar range now. And really, if it's actually a generic air traffic control radar, it's not radar as it normally is. Air traffic control radars actually read the transponder, not read from the radar pings. You know, what if you could set up a strike mission with a recon aircraft and actually have it fly like an egress path if you wanted it to like fly over a specific location one time and then essentially egress out? I think some do, but not all. Yeah, I guess you could use a support mission for that. That works just as well. And get fancy with the route. So our recon aircraft should start descending here shortly. Now, normally, what you would want to do is try and time your recon a little better. In a lot of cases, what I'll do is I'll assign like my strike aircraft to like a support mission, and then what I'll do is I'll manually then assign the flights to strikes as they come about or as I want to strike the targets. But for this, as Gunnar said, we're probably okay doing it as is and having a little bit of a gap between the recon and the strike. So we're descending down to our patrol altitude now. Alright, and we found where the enemy aircraft are. They are on the open parking spot, which I think I've already assigned to a strike mission. I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that as the number 1. I'm going to select the tarmac space. And the weather shelters. And I'm just going to assign them to the same strike mission, as you can see here. But what's going to happen is that we're going to go after the open parking space first. And actually what I'll do is I take that back. I'm going to leave 2 going after the open parking, and then I'm going to remove the tarmacs and the weather shelters. I'm going to set up another strike mission. For the tarmacs and the weather. Create new mission. Strike, land strike, strike. I'm just going to call this tarmac. Two sections. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and activate all my missions now. I don't like how this pops up back up to the top of the menu when you do this. Okay, so all the missions are now active. Well off access attack. Well off access attack. They should do this regardless. I just want to make sure. And then go back to our airbase before I hit play again. And find our 2 that aren't attached to anything and attach them to the strike tarmac mission. And then now all there is to do is to sit back, let our strike aircraft take off, and watch the show. So we go back to the airbase, we'll see that they're all taxing. Actually, a downside from having so many aircraft taking off from the same airbase is that it's going to clog up the runway for a little bit. So we're actually going to have a little bit of a lag time between our strikes here. And actually, you can see inside weather shelters, which is interesting. So what I'm going to do is go to the tarmac mission. Again, actually, the weather shelters are up on the top of the list. That's good. Perfect. Completely happened by accident, but I'll take it. And you can see all of our flight generation paths. So some are going to egress from the northwest. Some are going to egress from the northeast. Others are going to egress coming almost directly north. And then they're all going to egress a different way, which is really what you want. I ran downtown 1967 the other day using just all auto-generated missions, and it looked about like this, maybe a little worse. Back to the reconnaissance. By now your recon bird should be telling you something about the airfield, otherwise there is no point in risking an aircraft for this task. Reconnaissance is a vital part of the game. It is not always easy to do. Novice players often make the mistake of ignoring recon assets because they are generally vulnerable and carry either no or very few weapons, or they use their recon assets not making the most of the results. You should gain at least 3 things from good reconnaissance. You should gain at least 3 things from good reconnaissance. Understanding of the general target area. On an airfield and many other infrastructure type targets, you will have a very good idea of where the buildings are and how the buildings are laid out. It is hard to move a building or a runway, but new buildings and other structures could have been built since you last gained intelligence on an area. Look for temporary structures, parking spaces, turn to revetments, vehicles, etc. You will note that this airbase has something you didn't know about before. What is it and what does that mean? As far as I know, there's nothing here that I don't know about. Identifying any defenses. As a general rule, if something is set up to shoot at you, it'll probably want to hide it until it does. It is boarded a safety tip for defenders. If you aren't using your reconnaissance assets properly, chances are the first time you find these defenders is on your final bomb run, which at a minimum will make your pilots pull up quickly, probably miss their target, but it could mean casualties. If you find a defender early, you can adjust your plan and kill or neutralize them first. Identify how the enemy is deployed. This is a large subject, and in a larger scenario, you want to know the layout of the ship formations to find a gap or a weakness, or where his electronic jamming is the weakest, etc. In this scenario, your interest is where the heck is the parking his aircraft. No real point hitting an empty parking space. Well, you could just deny him that area. But generally you want to hit the area with aircraft first. If his aircraft are in a revetment, perhaps a guided bomb is needed. If in an open, a cluster munition is all you need, etc. In command, this is a very rare, common piece of information that you will want to know, so remember that you can use the contact report to help you find out. Once you have your Recce Bird over the base, click the unit view, click on contact emissions. Here you should be a list of scene parked at this facility and how long ago you saw it. Not particularly relevant in this scenario, but consider a target base with both F-15s and A-10s, which is more important to hit at that time in your situation decisions. Adjustment: once your recon aircraft finds out where the bad guys are parked, you should adjust the target list by any strikes that are hitting the parking spaces, but remember you cannot see inside the hangar, so assume that it has something in it. Say, as far as I know, there was nothing on this airbase I didn't know about, so Gunner lied to me. Oh, there was an extra weather shelter. Oh no, when I looked at it, I always saw the two, so... So, spotted at this airbase, we know that there are 3 Cessnas. So probably 1 in each weather shelter and 1 on the open parking spot. All of our aircraft should now be up. Wagner's theme music. I would love to, except Twitch would probably ban the VOD. And issue a copyright strike and all the other stuff, so I'm not going to do that. Make sure you have all courses selected to display on the map. You may want to pause the game at this point, spacebar. You will note that the missions are taking off and plotting a AI-derived course. This is a pretty basic course, as the range of these aircraft is limited, so you can change it if you wish. Select a unit, its course will appear brighter than the rest. Each course will generally have 5 nodes, a mid-course ingress and egress, an IP point, initial point where it starts its attack run, and the target which it may not reach if munitions are expended first. Where it enters the final approach for the base, you can't change the target here, but you can drag each of these nodes around a bit. If it exceeds the aircraft range, it may get confused, so be careful. You may also note that the order may not be perfect. Perhaps not enough time was allowed to unscramble the traffic at the base. Once again, experimentation is good. Perhaps after the first strike, it doesn't matter. So gunner means there is that if you want to adjust the course, in my case, I've selected, let's select one of my single aircraft. If I wanted to adjust the course, just grab the node and you can drag it around. I'm going to leave all my courses where they are. Hangar doors open and it rolls out 6 ZSU-23s. Yeah, that would be bad. Will come in low, just over the sand dunes. About a half mile out, will turn on the music. Scares the hell out of the enemy. Where's that from, Duck? Was that an actual quote by somebody, or is that just something you just came up with? Alright, so our first strike is about to go in, so I'm going to go and slow down time here. Oh, Apocalypse Now. Okay. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. So we're just going to zoom in on the airbase. Of course, we are going to lose all the course plots when I do that. Alright, first strike is coming in. I'm going to pause it real quick. I noticed a lot of my aircraft are actually low on fuel because of the auto-generated courses. So I'm going to go ahead and see if there's any of these I can still fix. Turn on groups. Let's turn that there. Just make your turns now. There we go. Okay. All right, let's zoom back in. So strike coming in on the runway. And we caused quite a bit of cratering to the runway. Here comes the group armed with more cluster munitions going after the open parking. So I'm not expecting to actually destroy the open runway point or the open parking, but I am expecting to at least kill the aircraft that are parked on it. The bombs. Got the tarmac spots too. Nice. Little collateral damage is, well, I'm gonna say is not always a good thing, but in this case it wasn't too bad. Probably didn't do too much damage though, just some light. How's everybody doing? Next, coming in, we have rockets going after the avgas. So 128 57 millimeter rockets should be more than enough to set the avgas on fire. Rockets away. Not the damage I was hoping for. In reality, that many explosions around the avgas would have caught the avgas on fire. Or at least started the avgas tanks to leak. So any sort of damage to avgas, in my opinion, is a mission kill. Next in is fencers coming in with the penetrators going after the ammo bunker. Followed shortly by the one going after the tower. Bombs away. He does still have 2 penetrators left if this one misses or doesn't destroy the target. Tower's gone. Should be circling back around for another strike on the bunker. Rockets away at the radar. And I think all those missed. Here comes the second pass on the bunker. That should have been the second pass on the bunker. I'm not sure why he didn't fire there. Let's see who's coming in next. He's going after the bunker. And he's going after the hangar. Okay, so those missed the... More cluster munitions coming in. Another bomb run on the runway access point. Another bomb run coming in on the ammo bunker. Miss on the runway axis. Hit and collateral shock damage on the weather shelters. Should be making another run here on the hangar. Bunker's almost dead though. One more run on both the bunker and the hangar should finish those off. And another run on the runway access point. Alright, there goes the bunker. Hit on the runway access point. Shock damage to the hangar. Access point's almost gone. He's going to egress. Anybody else left over here? Oh, one more run. Who are you coming in on? Oh, hangar. He's got one more TVID guided bomb if this one misses or malfunctions. Or doesn't do the job and finish off the target. And it's gone. And final run now coming in on the access point. Gonna drop my last TV guided bomb on the access point just to see if I can finish it off. Nope, and a malfunction. And as you can see, everybody else is all egressing it nicely. Some should already be bingo fuel or close to it, or egressing higher, so it's not a problem. Alright, let's go and tell our recon bird to go ahead and head home now. And while that's all happening, let's go take a look at how the strike went. Losses and expenditures. Obviously, we didn't lose anybody. So we destroyed the hangar, we destroyed the ammo bunker, destroyed the ammo pad, destroyed the avgas. Nice. Destroyed the building terminal, destroyed the control tower, and we destroyed 5 Cessnas. And we pretty much damaged the rest of the airbase. So, severely cratered the runway, severely cratered the runway access point. Since these are weather shelters, let's be honest, the weather shelters are probably full of holes and falling down, even though they're only light damage. And we cratered the tarmacs. Basically, the only thing that's left at the airbase that's unscathed is the generic air traffic control radar. We're going to let everybody fly back to base. You may note that the Su-24 with the TV EO bombs are hanging around a bit. They are guiding their bombs. In this case, it is a good thing that the threat level is minimal and the weather permits this behavior, as they are now up to around 12,000 feet. They will, in most circumstances, only drop one weapon at a time, allowing them to guide inaccurately. More on this issue in later tutorials. So what we could have done is change the weapon release authorization to essentially dump all the bombs at one time, instead of making the multiple passes. Well, that wasn't an airport terminal, that was an operations center for the enemy Cessna fleet. By watching the log, you'll see an indicator of the damage you're doing, fires created, targets destroyed, other targets detected, etc. As your aircraft fly over the target's area, they will report on previous damage. For instance, the runway, if your unit view, might be heavily damaged, therefore preventing those aircraft you have found in the parking areas from taking off or not. I would say these messages are a little delayed. True, Gunner. When you do that, the first one is guided, the rest are ballistic. I'm just saying it's an option. Not necessarily that it's a good option. You should watch for unexpended ordnance if the threat level is low. For instance, if one of your Su-24s dropped 2 out of the 3 CAB 1500 penetrators and destroyed its target, it will head home with the third bomb still strapped on. You could, if you like, take over this aircraft and give it another target. Select it, hit U to unassign, and you now have control. Assign it to the general or sweep up the mission you made earlier, or give it a specific target. It's a shame to waste a perfectly good bomb. Just a note here, you don't have to unassign it. You can simply just select the aircraft and then hit F1 to manually or to have it automatically re-engage a different target. If the aircraft is already RTB, that's a different story. I think with an aircraft that's RTB, you have to then unassign it first before you can give it another order. But if it's just hanging around, like on this, because it's a plotted course, you can just hit F1 and it'll automatic target. Your last strikes are probably coming in right now. Actually, my strikes are finished and my aircraft are landing. With any luck, this airport is a smoking ruin and will take several days of concerted effort to repair. It will. If you weren't quick enough at the closing the base, some of the resident aircraft may have taken off. Well, you have guns for that. If you were quick, you may have kept all aircraft on the ground, which we did. You can see them in the parking areas, but not the ones in the hangar. So make sure you kill that just in case. You can always retask assets to focus on these guys once you find them. An airbase with no aircraft is not much good to anyone, and the best aircraft is a smoking pile of twisted metal, no matter how it arrives at that state. To be fair, it also may be worth doing preliminary attacks if the airbase doesn't have aircraft, just to deny its use in the future. But typically in command scenarios, you don't actually see air bases that don't have anything. You can use special forces. It's just not used very much. And our final 2 aircraft are coming into land now, and we will call it a day. Your strike should just be about finished now. No rush if they aren't. Take your time. I would recommend you try this again and experiment. First, you may want to load up your save game in the editor and check out the red side to see what the actual damage is compared to what your BDA is telling you. Another idea of the multiple strikes missions is to make a patrol mission. name it holding or marshaling, turn off 1/3 rule, set the flight size to pairs, and assign all your aircraft to the mission. Then you can micro the attack, i.e. micromanage each detail, and bring your aircraft in at your leisure. You will need to unassign them from the holding mission before you conduct your attacks, though, or it may confuse them. They're only pilots after all. Careful that the Reds don't scramble on you once they see you coming, though. When you have a large strikes with dozens of aircraft, this marshalling technique is a good way of setting things up. Get everyone airborne, dump them into a strike mission all at once to overwhelm enemy forces. That's normally what I've been trying to do, is create a marshal mission and then assign them to the strikes. Rather than like what I did here and assign them the strikes right from the airbase. But in this case, this worked just fine. And before I close it out, is there any questions or anything regarding this tutorial or the previous one before I call it a day? I think it's critical for large strikes, and it's critical if like time on target is really important, and you want to maintain like as minimum amount over the target as possible. Or in the case of like Soviet bombers, to bring them in all at the same time in one overwhelming wave. Alright guys, well I think that's going to be it for me today. I will be back next Saturday, same time. Not sure what I'm going to be playing yet next week. Well, I have an idea of what I'm going to be playing next week. I do want to get back to Northern Fury in the next couple of weeks, but I think for next week I may do something like not Caribbean Fury, but Canary's Cage, just because it's been a while since I've played that scenario. And then we'll probably get back to Caribbean Fury after that. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. Stay safe, and I will see you guys next week. Cheers, Doug. Same to you, Gunner.